Okay, I think I'm live. Awesome. So, happy Christmas Eve, everyone. If you're celebrating that, I'm playing a vinyl, Christmas vinyl, just like last time. So, thanks everyone for joining me. Today, I'm going to cover some content that was not covered in my class because we just didn't have enough time. And so this is kind of a great way to get a sneak peek about what happens in my class. And I know some of you watching are probably my students. So let me just, now it's my first time using, I can share screen. It's my first, hello there, baby. You want to say hi to everyone? Are you, who am I talking to? I'm talking to everyone out there. It's Christmas Eve, or whatever they celebrate. So it looks like I can share screen. This is fantastic because then I could share my slides. So let me just see if I can pull that up. That's fantastic. So I'm using a new app for streaming. So let's see, share screen. Oh, wonderful. Okay, share screen. Hey buddy, silent night. Okay, so, I'm gonna share screen. Okay, and now I believe people, wow, oh, what's this? This is so bizarre. Okay, so I'm gonna go to my slides here, and can I get a thumbs up if you see my screen? Yes, no? Because then, okay, I'm gonna share this screen. So this is the slides, so then now I don't have any idea. You know what if I take this and minimize it? So that way I could still read the comments while at the same time being accessible. Let me see. All right, so we have, wow, okay. I just need to see sorry for the confusion. Oh, okay, great. Thanks, Megan. So excited to see what you have to present to everyone on Sunday. So in class, we kind of skipped over communications in times of conflict, which is wonderful because this gives me more time now here to elaborate on even more. Okay, so we are looking at this book. There are several books that I found really helpful when it comes to talking about approaching. And conflict can sometimes be a really intimidating word, but really, I see conflict as just a breakdown in communication, a misunderstanding, and it actually is an opportunity for all parties to grow. When there's conflict that arises, oftentimes we feel misunderstood, we feel unheard, we feel we might have been mistreated or just not valued. I think those are some of the common responses to conflict, and then we feel this weird thing in our tummy. Does anyone out there have a similar or different experience when it comes to conflict? Sorry, I just have to look at the thing here. And if you do, type it into the chat so that way we can discuss it. Okay, so let me go back here. I'm kind of happy about this. So I'm using a platform called StreamYard, which is my first time using it. It was recommended to me, so I think I'm going to use it from now on because then I have this ability to share screen. So we're going to cover this book. And in addition, this is a book by Thich Nhat Hanh. He's a Vietnamese Zen Buddhist. This is a fantastic book. We've been using this book as well, the Hawaiian Shamanistic Healing, for a lot of forgiveness exercises, especially the Ho'oponopono. And there's another book here which I can't find. It's somewhere in this house. It's called The Art of War by Sun Tzu. And The Art of War is almost like a textbook on how to conduct war. Um, and it's based on Taoist principles. Um, so it recognizes that at times it's necessary for us to be engaging in disagreement, but how do we go about it so that we get the results that we want with the least harm as possible? In that book, The Art of War by Sun Tzu, there is I don't know what you call it, a short story about this king who's looking for the sage. Now, in the olden days, and perhaps even today, wise sages tend to go up into the mountains in the Himalayas to live an isolated life, um, to be a hermit, so that they can cultivate their internal spirituality. And so the wise king from ancient China decided to look for this sage, this wise man who was living in the mountains. And on his way there, him and his entourage, his troop, his army, encountered a shepherd boy, a young, probably 12-year-old boy who was tending to a flock of sheep. And he asked this boy, "Hey boy, can you have you heard of a wise man who lives in this mountain ranges over here? And if you do know where he is, would you be able to take us there?" And then the boy said, I don't know exactly, but I might have heard of someone living in those mountains, and I could show you a safe passage and how to get there. But I have to take my sheep with me because no one's going to tend to them. And so the king and his entourage, his army, decided to follow the shepherd boy into the Himalayan mountains. And then he asked, I remember, I'm not sure if I remember the story quite precisely, but I remember he asked the boy, um, so what do you think he'll say um, about my question? My question is about how do we rule, how do we govern a country well? And so he asked this to the boy, and he said, I don't know anything about governing countries, but I only know how to tend to sheep. Can I ask you, is governing countries the same as tending sheep? And of course, the king just kind of ignored it. So they went on for several days into several passages. And then this question he's still pondering, would I have my question asked? So he asked the boy again, you know, how would, what would, how, what would make a king a good leader, and how can I govern my people? And then the boy asked again the same question: is governing and ruling over people the same as taking care of sheep? And then the king said, well, I don't know much about taking care of sheep because that's not my job. And the boy responded by saying, well, in order to take care of sheep, just like we did when we went through this mountain passage, we need to make sure that they are safe from harm, that the wolves or the predators won't get them, and none of them will get lost, that um, they'll feel safe, and you'll bring them to clean water and green pastures. And if ruling people and governing a country is anything like taking care of sheep, then yes, I do know something about ruling a country. And then from that moment on, the king realized who he was speaking to. And do you know who he was speaking to? He was speaking to the wise man that he was searching all along. And this 12-year-old boy, after many reincarnations, is, has just told him the answer on how to rule his kingdom. So I remember that's how the book, I think that's in that book, I hope it is. But nonetheless, it approaches strategy in a very, um, doesn't look at things at black and white. as good or bad. And there are times when we are confronted with conflict. And it's so fitting because we were just talking about the Vishuddha chakra, which is the chakra of communication and truth. And so I thought I'd gather some of these resources for all of you. So, first and foremost, I think it's important to identify um, when we need to kind of engage in what this book is saying, a crucial conversation. Essentially, a communication and a dialogue between you and another individual or a party, when it's kind of escalated to a level where um, it, it's it, it's not just a regular conversation. And usually these are, as I said in the conflict earlier on, when we feel that the stakes are high, that means we have something to lose. Oftentimes people's egos get in the way, so if they feel that they are being devalued or disrespected, these are misunderstood or taken advantage of, these are some of the signs that we need to engage in crucial conversations. Um, Number two is when opinions vary. So, for example, I think I gave this example to class, um, or I'll give another example. There was two couple. I remember a Buddhist story of the old couple. This is actually fitting when we talked about the different types of love. So the old couple, both of them are hard of hearing, and they were walking down a park, and the husband heard a quack, and then and the wife was like, "Oh, that's such a lovely sound of a chicken." And then the husband was like, "No, that's a duck. Didn't you hear the quack? It's not a cock-a-doodle-doo." But the wife is like, "No, no, no, I'm sure that's a chicken." And then the husband was like, "It's a duck." The wife's like, "No, it's a chicken." And then eventually the husband just said, "You know what? You're right. It was a duck." Um, and at this point, it was him, instead of getting into a conflict over something so silly, he just accepted that, you know what, like, I'm just gonna let her win. It could be a duck, it could be a chicken. I mean, chances are it was a duck, but she heard a chicken, so I'm just gonna let it pass. So, as you can see there, the stakes could have been higher if there was ego involved, and certainly opinions varied on that one. And if they were strongly emotionally tied to it, like the third bullet there says, then certainly that could create an environment where crucial conversation is needed. Let me just check on the. Okay, so we're still good on the sharing. Okay, so everyone's still with me. Okay, this is what it's like to be in my class. I just go on. Okay, so I'm gonna go back again. Okay, so now we've determined what a crucial conversation, and usually we feel it in our stomach. Usually we feel uncomfortable. Sometimes we get sweaty palms. We feel uncomfortable to say what we need to say. This is exactly when we need to engage in this strategy. Here's 7 steps, okay? And I think we've already talked about the step 1, which is recognizing when a conversation is important. And oftentimes, you'll recognize that uncomfortable feeling in your body is because safety has been breached. So there's often nonverbal and verbal cues that would indicate that. So nonverbal cues, some of that stomach feeling, sweaty palms, sweaty armpits, and sometimes nonverbal things such as silence. If somebody just pulls back, or maybe you've noticed this with yourself, is that you just pull back and you kind of hesitate to speak, or you feel fearful to speak your mind. And the opposite of that is sometimes people will scapegoat, people will pull jokes, people will laugh nervously. So it's important to be aware, not just of your own. It's important to be self-aware, but certainly what's happening in the room. And you can almost feel the energy shift when conflict arises. And that's the thing with conflict. Sometimes it's unexpected. I certainly had several opportunities to practice this throughout my last week. So I'm actually glad that I'm sharing this with you. So, step 2, this is so important because before you engage in any conversation, it's important to ask yourself, okay, there's varying opinions, there's, egos in the way, all those three things that we talked about. What do I want in the end, right? Like, do I want to win this fight about that duck and chicken, or do I want to have peace, between this relationship? Like, what is it that I really want, and what does the other party want in the end? Because by knowing what they want and by knowing what you want, we can then come together to make sure that there's some um, give or take or compromise or collaboration, so that either you both get what you want or portions of what you want is met. Okay, so before we engage in any conversations, important to check in. All right. Any questions, please type it into the chat box there and I'll be able to see it after I stop sharing screen. Okay, so I said there's 7 steps. We've covered 2, so there's 5 more. The third step is to reestablish safety. In order for us to engage in any purposeful communication, we need to, as I said, like, respect could have been breached. That's why the safety is being breached. It's important to reestablish that. It's important to pay attention on your end and on the other. And first of all, what are you um, having a disagreement with? Is it the chicken or the duck thing, and how is it being said, right? Because in my example, the man started saying, no, it's a duck, for heaven's sakes, like, are you deaf? And in this case, they both were hard of hearing, so for all you know, it could have been a dog. And what's happening as a response, both internally, physiologically, oftentimes those are great indicators, as I said, like sweaty palms, um, rapid breathing, inability to speak, and knowing your coping strategies. Are you coming up with excuses? Are you starting to pull jokes, like, just to kind of dodge things? Are you staying silent? So those physiological responses are often tied to our emotional response. The emotional response is what pulls our body to react in such a way because we feel unsafe, right? So one of the things that can be useful here in this book, they call it retracing your path to action, which essentially is something that's used by a lot of therapists and psychologists in the realm of cognitive behavior therapy, or CBT. Essentially, it's examining your behaviors, as it says here, examining your thoughts, examining your feelings, and then telling your story and backtracking as how they ended up to feel that way. So if that husband felt, insulted that his wife was thinking that that sound was a chicken, like, trace the steps back, like, before that sound happened. What happened before? Was he hungry? We talked about this, right? We're more vulnerable when we're hungry, when we're angry, when we're lonely, when we're tired, and when we feel injustice. Halti is the acronym. Um, because those things can make a difference. Is his patience already tested to the limits, and that just one little thing was the straw that broke the donkey's back because it was unexpected? Perhaps he had a long week and he just wanted to have this walk with his wife, and all of a sudden now they're arguing about this chicken and duck thing. So it's important to examine what led up to this and your interpretation, eventually, of the event. Maybe, he felt misheard, unacknowledged by his wife, not just in this chicken and duck scenario, but maybe in other times. And this was just the thing that just kind of really, when shit hits the ceiling. And so you examine the story that you created in your head, and then you write things down, you write your story. And I always tell people, like, I always recommend to write things with your non-dominant hand, just because that really gets your the parts of your brain that are not often engaged in the critical thinking to come alive and to bridge the left and right brain. It changes your perspective when you start doing things that are not on autopilot. And examining the evidence. Okay, so if he felt angry, say I was that husband, if I felt angry, what were the evidence to support that? Like, was it really a quack and wasn't a woof, or a cock-a-doodle-doo? So looking exactly at the evidence, And it's important that when you look at the evidence, you're looking at the evidence to support or refute whether or not the feelings and thoughts and actions that have led to the conflict um, is reasonable. Because oftentimes we overreact. You can see this when we're driving. I certainly, when I'm driving, somebody cuts me off or somebody honks at me for no good reason, and all of a sudden, like, I feel like safety's breached. How dare you? Like, so it's important. Like, is my reaction congruent with the actual thing that happened? So that's a little bit of CBT, and then you can then rationalize and adjust based on the reality. And then you also do that for the other person and use empathy to kind of engage in what would they have found the situation to be, and where was the miscommunication, where was the loss in translation. Now, I want to let you know that this is really, really difficult to do when you're in that instant. That's why it's important to, as I said again, to check in with your physiological response first and see, before you even jump into the rationalization, see if you could just be present with that physiological response and acknowledge that, you know what, I felt harmed, like I felt threatened, and I feel angry. My fist feels warm, and I just want to punch something. It's important to sit with that before we engage in any kind of rational thinking, because when we are emotionally activated, the rational part of our brain is deactivated. That's kind of how it works. If this was the brain, this is the amygdala. The brain, it's kind of like in the interior part of the brain, and over it is our prefrontal cortex, the brain that is responsible for our rational thinking. When we are in a state of flight or fight or fawn or freeze response, this amygdala goes haywire and flips the lid. So once the lid gets flipped like this and this is going haywire, we don't have the ability to rationalize things. So that's the only thing that I always kind of encourage people to. Um, I really encourage people to have a relationship with their body, because our body, talking about communication, holds a lot of keys and is always communicating with us. So, moving forward now, what time is it? Okay, step 5, 6, and 7. So, this is when we actually go and share our story to the other person, and facts. Some of the evidence that we gain, but it's very important not to present your story as fact. Okay, because the reality is there's always two sides of the coin. I'm sure you've heard. Um, your side of the story is one piece of the coin. Your story has opinions and has facts, and the other person also has it. So, one of the ways that I was teaching this in class was using the KISS meditation method. And the KISS meditation, uh, right here. I learned this one from this woman named Psalm Isadora, who's now passed. But you could see on this diagram here what they're doing. One hand, I recommend the non dominant hand to be placed on your heart center, and then your dominant hand to be placed on the other person's heart center. So if you just do this with me just right now, and I know we're looking at each other through the screen, and I can't really see you because I'm sharing my screen, but just let's take a deep breath together. So, taking a deep breath in while looking at each other in the eye. So, sharing one breath in. Let's do that 2 more times. So, breathing in. Okay, so what did we just do there? Although we are online, we just shared energy together. That's what the 4 points of contact here: eye to eye, hand to heart, breath, and energy. And now, not everyone who you're engaged with conflict is going to be able to, or is going to be comfortable with a kiss meditation. If they are, fantastic. Perhaps they're your intimate partner and you're capable of doing this with them. Perhaps it's a child or a parent. Um, Oftentimes, people in our workplace may not be capable or willing to do this, and that's okay. We can just imagine um, their image. If we have a photograph of them, wonderful. We can practice that as well. Practicing what we want to say and practicing what we anticipate to hear, and being open that our um, genuine intention may not be reciprocated. Our asking for apology or wanting an apology may not be given to us. Nonetheless, we practice the forgiveness exercise, which I talked in the previous videos, the Ho'oponopono. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you, as a way to free ourselves and to heal the wounds that have been created in our hearts. So, so before you actually go and share your story and facts, it's important to meditate on this. Um, Use the kiss meditation. It's really helpful. I just did it. Like I was in the tub, which is why my hair was wet, and I was doing kiss meditation with my very first boyfriend when I was a teenager, and that's years ago. Years ago. I don't know where he is now, and I was forgiving him, for the things that he's done for me, um, uh, and also, yeah, mainly forgiving him. Not that in. I was perfect. I'm joking. Um, but that was the energy that I was working with. Because I felt the first relationship really set up, everything else that came to follow. Anyway, step 6, exploring others' paths. So trying to understand the person's point of view. This is really helpful in the KISS meditation because only one person can speak, and you have such a very intimate, close engagement. And also, they may not be emotionally capable of tracing their steps. They may not be at the same frequency as you are. So there is a term in psychology which is called oh my gosh, uh it's part of the embodiment. It's basically resonance, like like you're able to influence the other person just by your energy. um Co-regulation. There we go. So when I enter a room, and today I'm a little bit hyped up because it is Christmas Eve and I have dinner with my family soon. But when you enter a room and just with your presence, you're able to influence the energies of others just by how you carry yourself. So if you remain calm in a situation that is heightened with emotions, it's possible that you're the one that's going to influence them. Oftentimes, when people are unaware, it's the other way around. We get sucked into a situation, and then we become reactive instead of responsive, which then basically takes away our power and our ability to actually rectify this situation and create what manifest the outcome that we want to have happen, which in the chicken and duck situation, the husband and the wife, they just wanted to have peace. They didn't want to win the argument, or at least the husband in that matter. And lastly, step 7 is, go into, as I said, once you find your goals and theirs, and come together to find a common goal. Following through is accountability, being accountable for your words, actions, and so sometimes that means asking for forgiveness if you've done something wrong. This certainly happened to me in the YouTube realm, where I posted a video of one of my clients who is supposed to be anonymous, but on the video, their name was actually on the, and I didn't see it, but their name showed up on the on the on the GarageBand file. So that broke that anonymity piece. So in order to rectify that, I apologized. I took it down. So there's the accountability piece, and I asked for forgiveness. And in the future, I'm going to make sure that those things don't happen again. The journaling and self-reflection piece is so vital because that allows us to learn from the experience and teach us, so that not only do we not repeat the same mistakes over and over again. But there's something to be said about going through a conflict situation. You grow, like you kind of forced to grow, where um, you're asked to be brave. Earlier on we talked a lot about fear and bravery, and essentially that's how this is the kind of pearls that I found in this book. This is Hopo'oponopono. I posted this meditation on my Patreon. If you would care to support me on Patreon, it's patreon.com/Theodore Castasis. It really helps me to have people there. And also the courses are going to be posted there. So once the course is finished, it'll be posted there. And before I forget, if you have not registered to the free burning ceremony event on Sunday, January 2nd, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, please do so. I'll put the link in the description below. That's actually the last day of my class, so I decided to open up for everyone, and it'll be a burning ceremony. So take anything that is no longer serving you, and we're going to let go of it along with 2021. Okay, so we covered that. Let me now get back to hello, Andres. Thank you for joining me. I know you're probably working, although it's Christmas Eve. So let me stop sharing here, because there's another thing that I want to share with all of you. And this is something that I learned in nursing school. I didn't put it in my slide because I completely forgot about it. But now that I got more time to go over some of my lectures, I realized, I completely forgot this. And this technique, this communication technique, was taken from was inspired from the aviation industry, because as you can imagine, if you're flying a plane, if something goes wrong, you need to be able to communicate quick, you need to be able to communicate accurately, because people's lives are at risk. So this Crucial Conversations book was actually a required reading in my nursing communication program, because when there's miscommunication between the healthcare providers, the nurses, and the doctors, people's lives are at risk. Medical errors could occur just because of miscommunication. So it's important to be able to know how to communicate effectively, clearly, to a goal that is not harming others, and certainly benefiting others in a way that is where the egos are put aside. Anyway, so this technique that we learned in nursing school is called SBAR. So I'm going to write it down because I don't have the capacity to write on a blackboard here. Let me use this. So SBAR. Feel free to take notes. So SBAR stands for situation. B stands for background. A stands for assessment. And R stands for recommendation. All right. So a lot of you have come to me to ask me about ways to approach a situation where there is varying opinions, kind of like what we said. Stakes are high. Maybe you could lose something that's important to you, not just your ego. Anyway, so along with that Crucial Conversation, the Hopo'oponopono, what's the other one? Art of War, and especially this one, How to Fight by Thich Nhat Hanh, is such a little treasure. I recommend everyone to read it. This SBAR, situation, background, analysis, and recommendation, is a great way to really quickly communicate your side of things to the other party, while in the midst of the heightened emotions. So situation, you're basically describing what happened. So when you're doing your self-reflection, say I was that husband, like, I swear I heard a duck, I heard a quack, and here are my evidence, I saw a flock of geese, a flock of ducks earlier on around the same area. So that's the situation. It was afternoon at 4 o'clock. The sun is going down much earlier, so I couldn't really see, but I just heard. Nobody really saw. The background is that it's Friday night and I was exhausted from work. I had to work overtime. It's the holiday season and it's so busy. On top of that, I felt discredited and disvalued by my wife, who didn't believe that I heard a duck. Um, Assessment, and by doing that, you could kind of assess, maybe I was really tired. I felt an injustice. I was angry. Um, and and that's why I felt upset about the situation. And then the recommendation would be, I don't really care whether or not it was a duck or a chicken. What really matters to me is that I felt heard, and that I felt validated and recognized that I'm also important. And what I heard was just as important as it could have been a chicken, because the reality, nobody saw it. It was just heard. So you see how describing that to yourself first, and then coming up with this same formula to the other person, describing to them how you felt, what are some of the things that led to how you felt and acted and spoke, can be really helpful. So I hope that's helpful for people. I think that's about it. Like, I went overtime, 40 minutes. So let me know what you think. Any questions over there? Hey, Tay Tay, Merry Christmas. Thank you so much. It's not a real tree, um, but it does its job. Actually, funny. No, don't. I'm gonna get too. My very first Christmas in Canada. Quick story here. My very first Christmas in Canada, our Christmas tree was a line of Christmas light. We didn't have enough money back then to buy a Christmas tree. But what I did was I went to the library and not purchased, but borrowed some Christmas tapes, because back then we still had cassettes. And I went to the dollar store and bought like a line of Christmas lights. I believe it was red. And then I taped it on the wall in the shape of a Christmas tree. And yay, thank you so much, Megan. Yeah, red is Christmas. And actually, my homeopathic remedy is a red orchid, so I should probably wear red more often. So thank you so much, and congratulations, Andres, for getting the night off. And yeah, thank you for spending Christmas Eve with me. I hope to see all of you in the burning ceremony on January 2nd, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Please sign up to my newsletter and you'll get another invitation over there. And the newsletter is just found on my website at theodorecastasis@gmail.com. So without further ado, have a good night, everyone. Namaste. And I'll see some of you this Sunday. Bye now.